Chapter -5, A Conversation in the Dark. Cass stepped out of the kennels too late to see where they had taken the jester. Approaching the palace, she scanned her surroundings with the double monocle, as if it were a pair of field binoculars. But no luck. As for the homologist, knowing him, Cass figured he'd probably gone in search of the palace's kitchen, and was at this very moment devouring a roasted pig twice his size. Unless he was too scared to stay so close to Lord Pharaoh, in which case Cass supposed he was long gone. She came so near the achieving her goal, to meet the jester and to ask him about the secret, about who she was. But now she felt further away from achieving the goal than ever. Not to mention, what kind of secret could the secret be if it was the jester's secret? It hardly seemed likely that such a nutty, moody man would hold information important to the fate of the entire world. Lost in speculation, Cass didn't at first notice the maid holding out a pail in the window above. Cass got a whiff just in time to jump out of the way before the contents of the pail poured out in a long, unpleasant stream. I wouldn't say what those contents were, but if you know what a chamber pot is, as you can guess, remember this was before the invention of indoor plumbing. Cass expected there to be a great splattering next to her, but it turned out the chamber pot had been emptied directly into what looked like the stone well in the ground. The stench issuing forth from the well, if it was a well, would have been enough to make the most people steer clear. But the light coming out of it made Cass curious. Pinching her nose, she looked over the edge. She couldn't see much, but she could see enough. There was intended the pool of water at the bottom, but the water was filled with waste. From somewhere down below it came a faint cries of prisoners, as well as what she imagined. Was she imagining it? An even fainter jingle of the jester's hat. The royal property, it appeared, was also the palace's dungeon. But how to get in? She could try and rappel herself down to the bottom, but where would she land? Cass remembered lowering herself into the pyramid at the Midnight Sun Spa, only to be greeted by flames licking her feet. The pool of waste would almost be worse. Thankfully, Cass found another route. Not far away was a larger stairwell, descending underground. It almost certainly led to the dungeon. A heavy iron gate blocked her way down, but she figured if she waited long enough, somebody would eventually open it. Sure enough, a posse of 6 soldiers soon arrived with their new prisoners, 2 men from Anastasia's team of bandits, their masks now hanging loose around their necks. You can lock us in iron, but it is you who is slaves to the king, shouted one. Think you can keep us any longer than last time? I won't bet on it, shouted the other. Cass felt a not entirely sensible sympathy for the bandits and briefly considered using her invisibility to help them in some way, but she decided her efforts were best directed in service of the jester. She stayed close to the soldiers until she was inside the gates. Then she paused to let them get ahead. Following in their footsteps, she found herself in a long and winding passageway that normally would have been too dark to navigate without a torch, but with aid of the monocle she could see every crack and crevice and had no trouble at all, unless you call having to avoid rats and cockroaches and one particularly large spider trouble. She knew she was close when she had to hold her nose, now very dimly lit by a few candles burning on the walls in the corridor, winding until it became a kind of underground rotunda. With the pool of waste in the center, the prison cell surrounded it. Not far ahead of Cass, the soldiers slammed the cell doors shut on the bandits. She pressed against the wall as they passed, her way on their way out. The cell doors were made of iron, crusting with rust, and had only small openings through which to communicate with the inmates. Cass stood on her tiptoes looking into the first cell. It was dark and difficult to see, but she almost certainly there was no one inside. Before she could get to the second cell, Lord Ferrero stormed out of it, holding a candle. He was accompanied by the prison guards. "If you don't tell me where the creature went, you'll spend the rest of your days in here, I swear it," he shouted to the cell's inhabitant. Then he started striding away in Cass's direction. "I know not what your monkey went," I came to reply from the door. "I know only where you're going, and my advice is not to bring that cloak. You'll be much too warm. In fact, you'll be burning." Cass slung back against the wall, but not in time. Lord Pharaoh brushed against her, jarring her arm and causing her to drop the monocle. Luckily, the glass did not break, but it hit the stone floor with a loud enough clink to catch Lord Pharaoh's attention. "What's that?" Cass stood frozen, her heart beating in her chest. The monocle glistened in the torchlight. Lord Pharaoh picked up the monocle and turned it over in his hands. How curious, a double monocle. And then it happened. He put the monocle to his eye and looked straight to her. "Curious indeed," he said with a sinister smile. He reached out and grabbed her arm. She tried to push him off, but he was too strong. "I thought for a second you were just a trick of my eye, but now I see you have a trick of touch as well." Cass stared back at the man staring at her. Enlarged by the double monocle, his dark green eye looked ominous and reptilian. She wanted to make a retort, to say something smart and sting so awful the man, but she thought she was too afraid. "Why is it when I look at you, I think I see the future?" mused the Lord Pharaoh. "You are not of this time, am I right?" "What is it?" said the guard nervously. "A ghost?" Lord Pharaoh snickered. "If she was a ghost, she would be a sibling girl ghost. There's no need to fear." He tightened his grip on Cass. "This is a very intriguing glass you have. What else do you bring from your invisible world? Empty your pockets now, or I will have the guards do it." Cass obeyed, but there was nothing in her pockets but a crumpled wrapper. Lord Pharaoh unfolded it, revealing a teeny triangle of chocolate. Cass let out a gasp. It was the last uneaten bit of Senior Hugo's special time-traveling recipe. She had forgotten it was left in there. Lord Pharaoh sniffed the chocolate, then touched it with his tongue. "What is that? It's some kind of spice?" "It's chocolate," Cass answered, surprise momentarily overcoming her fear. Then she remembered that the New World treat had yet to be imported to Europe. "It is vile, but unique. I shall have to study it further," said Lord Pharaoh, rewrapping the remains. Cass looked at the sign that Senior Hugo's chocolate was having an effect on him. With any luck, Lord Pharaoh would fall to the ground unconscious, but apparently one taste was too small to make any difference. "As you know, let's throw you in with the jester for now. Later we shall learn how best to kill a ghost." He lowered the monocle to inspect it briefly. "I have a distinct feeling the future will be much brighter without you," he concluded, replacing the monocle, this time with an expression so satisfied one might have expected him to never to remove the monocle again. Cass choked back a sob. Without the monocle, she would never be able to escape. The bells on the jester's hat jingled in defiance in the darkness. "Who's there?" he asked. "Though I cannot see your face, I will know what unlucky soul has entered this gloomy place." Cass peered around the cell, trying to make out a form of her fellow prisoner. The only light came from the small opening in the cell door. But the glimmer There was a glimmer she thought might be the bells of the jester's hat. She crawled towards it. Hi, my name is Cassandra, but everybody calls me Cass. Cass, the jester repeated in surprise. You are, but alas, if my ears do not lie. Why is such a child as you in a place like this? What did you do wrong, or is it rather, what did you do right? Am I here, then this prison must be reversed for the best and most bright. Cass giggled eventually. The jester's mood was on an upswing again. It was kind of a long story, but, well, I think part of the reason is that she took a breath. It might as well just say it. I'm invisible, and Lord Pharaoh wants to find out why. The jester laughed. 'Tis a good joke, but no real riddle. We are all invisible in the dark. Come now, tell me the true story. Or, if not true, at least a better one. No, really, you won't be able to see me, even if there was light. See, watch, let me take your hat. By now Cass had located the jester. Before he could protest, she pulled his hat off his head. Look, see how that little bit of light from the shining bells? Now feel my hand. It's there, right? I'm moving my hand over the bells. Now see, there's still light on it, no shadow. Nice trick, I admit, said the jester, impressed. If you can do this sort of magic in the daylight, we might put on a show together. It's not a magic trick. That's my friend Max Ernest's department. He must be a great magician, your friend. Does he want a partner? I will give him 1 coin for every 10 we make. Oh, the feeling like a rich man already. I shall make it 2. Forget about Max Ernest. He really's a difficult partner, trust me. I should know. The point is, the light shines through me because I'm invisible. It was important that she convinced him. Cass decided, for one thing, she didn't want him to die of shock if the cell was ever illuminated and he couldn't see her. On a more practical level, if he first accepted the fact that she was invincible, it would be easier to make him believe that what was even more unlikely, that she was a visitor from the future. Here now, I'm putting my hand over your eyes. You can still see, right? The jester didn't say anything, just nodded. You're a ghost then, a spirit? He whispered after a moment. I have not met such a one before. I don't know. It's hard, said Cass. I think it depends on how you define ghost. The jester shuddered in the darkness. I know what you are. You are no ghost. You are that voice in my head they warn you about. He reached for his hat and put it back on his head, as if it might squelch his voice. The bells shook mockingly. You see, despite my vanity, I fear for my sanity. He whispered, when they call me mad, I always laugh and tell another joke, but in secret I worry about my mental yoke. That is a pun, by the way. The brain is like a yolk of an egg, and your head, it is also a mental yolk. The mental theater, your senses of reality there. See how I ramble? Wait, stop. I'm not a voice in your head, I swear. If anything, you are in mine. I mean, I think I might be dreaming you, in a way. What? What are you saying? You confuse me more. Your willy wrath? Very well, you sneaky spectre. Do not spare me. He stood warming to his theme. Take me, O gods of the insane. I will be your slave. If you will have me, I will rave and rave. For in madness lies escape from this horrid prison. And if I must live in the dark, I will imagine I am a lark. And these walls will not see me die, for in my mind I will fly. My flesh will rot, but I need not. What? Would you just stop talking for a second? Cass demanded, in a firm voice. Her reserve for Max Ernest went off on its longest and most ridiculous tangents. You are not crazy. You're just making me crazy. Now listen. I'm going to sound really weird, but I've come from the future, hundreds of years from now, actually. I am your great-great and a bunch of other great-granddaughters. Ah, You are not satisfied to turn my mind to jelly. You must spread it on toast and eat it too. Wait, I feel my ears. Cass reached for the Jester's hands. Just made him touch the points of her ears. See, they're just like yours. That they are, said the Jester agreeably. But this proves not that you are my future self, merely that you are like me, half-elf. Cass froze, her heart beating in her chest. Could that be true? As incredible as it sounded, was that her secret? Was that the secret? Are you really part elf? She asked. The Jester chuckled. Not it is your mind that is lost. No, I am not. None that I know. Oh, said Cass, relieved and disappointed at the same time. Well, elf or not, I am your descendant. I'm 99% sure anyways. The Jester sighed. Perhaps you are. I myself am not sure of anything. Calm again, the Jester sat down next to Cass. Now the time she thought she was about to ask the secret when a loud crash echoed in the corridor.